9 years later, the Switch has held up surprisingly well in its old age. Sure, it's lagging behind in terms of like graphical performance, but most of the games I'm gonna wanna play on here are gonna be smaller games anyway. Games that don't need all that power. My Steam Deck, or even my ROG Ally, for example, those are gonna be way more powerful. But even still, I'm only playing games at 720p on those too. The Switch 2 released in the middle of last year, and for me, that marked the end of the Switch 1. I'm an early adopter, and I can play all of my Switch 1 games on the Switch 2, and they run even better, so why would I ever look back? But most people are not early adopters, and they shouldn't be. My suggestion since the Switch 2 came out to most people has been to wait. As a piece of hardware, I really like it. But as a platform that you're gonna be spending your hard-earned $500 on, you should probably wait for there to be some games. Mario Kart World is not really enough for me to suggest to you that you should jump into a whole new console generation. But Mario Kart World, Donkey Kong Bonanza, the whole damn GameCube library, Pokopia? Well, now might be time to upgrade. Kind of. Well, only if you really like what's only available on the Switch 2. For months, there haven't really been that many killer apps. Not anything that isn't already also available on the Switch 1 too. Now, I think it's finally time. Depending on what you want, there might be a handful of compelling reasons to get the Switch 2. There's the games, of course. There's also the hardware, which boasts a lot of quality of life improvements, and there's some pretty hefty improvements to the most popular Switch 1 games now, too. Every Switch 1 game now gets a little bit of a performance boost, and there's a select few that feel like totally new games. I decided to dust off my Switch 1s just to see what it would be like if I was still using them now in 2026. What if I wasn't an early adopter? Are they still great consoles? Is the upgrade worth it now? How much am I taking my Switch 2 for granted? How much did I take the Switch 1 for granted? It's fine. It's fine. My dad says I need to tell people to subscribe in the beginning of the video. So, subscribe and then watch this. This video is sponsored by Surfshark. Hey guys, there's been a lot of traffic here on our network at the office, so I think we're gonna have to stop watching Netflix here at work. What? God, this place sucks! How much Netflix are you guys watching at work? I'm almost done. With what? All of Netflix? Look guys, I'm just gonna block Netflix. The internet will be way smoother here when I do that. I got a question. Can I still watch Tubi? I'm just kidding, I'm never watching Tubi. Yeah, I didn't think so either. VPNs like Surfshark encrypt your data so that nobody on your network can see what you're doing, whether you're on public Wi-Fi, at home, or at the office. They can also help you change your location so you can access content that's blocked in your country too. Surfshark 1 gets you their VPN, private web search, data leak alerts, and their antivirus. We work out of an office, and for some reason, our last YouTube live stream was throttled. It was dropping frames like crazy. You can see here, we're in the red. But now, all I have to do is enable Surfshark. Boom, we're in the green. No more throttling. It's that easy, and I can't believe it, and I don't understand why that works. There's no risk to trying Surfshark, and they offer a free 30-day money-back guarantee. So go to surfshark.com/den and use code DEN for an extra 4 months of Surfshark VPN. God, I can't do anything without my shows. I've been trying to watch the Joe Rogan Experience, and now I think the moon's fake. The moon landing? The whole moon, dumbass! Do you want me to just show you how to use Surfshark to get Netflix back? You can use Surfshark to get Netflix back? Can you show me how to do that? You're the boss. You could just turn it back on. I am? I am. He's a shape-shifting monster. I'm gonna kill him now. Before, I was a guy who felt obligated to buy every single new console so that I could make a video about it on the internet. I was not an early adopter. I would wait until A, I had the money, and B, there were enough killer games to warrant buying a whole new console. That can just be one game. There's no shame in that. If you play an absolute ton of Mario Kart 8, there's no shame in wanting a new Switch 2 just for Mario Kart World. I personally just am not a Mario Kart guy. I did get the Switch 2 at launch, and I did play Mario Kart World. It's just, it's not for me, and I know that. Donkey Kong Bonanza is a little more my speed. When that came out, that might have been the one to have pushed me over the edge. I absolutely loved Mario Odyssey, and Donkey Kong Bonanza is made by the same team. It's essentially Mario Odyssey, just with Donkey Kong as the protagonist, which personally made it a little less appealing for me. I don't like Donkey Kong that much. It's still a great game. I just have a lot going on. I didn't finish it. So even though Donkey Kong Bonanza is a great game, it's just not something that kept me playing my Switch 2. Those two games together might not necessarily be something that would push you over the edge into getting a Switch 2. Pokopia is the one that everyone's playing right now. When that game was announced, I thought it looked like absolute ass. Who the hell wants Pokemon but Minecraft? Well, it turns out everybody does. It's more like Dragon Quest Builders because it's those guys that made it. And everyone's like, yeah, of course it's a good game. It's the Dragon Quest Builders guys that made it. But nobody could have ever foreseen that Pokemon but Minecraft plus Animal Crossing. No one could have foreseen that that game is the highest rated Pokemon game of all time, even the mainline ones. And it's just as highly rated as Animal Crossing itself. Who would have guessed that? If you put that on Polymarket, everyone would have lost their house. You know what, though? I do see the appeal now. It's like Animal Crossing if the menus were streamlined and you had free, full 360-degree movement instead of sticking to a grid when you walk around. It's made extremely well. There's virtually no tutorial. It just throws you right in. The dialogue isn't too much to bear. Sometimes it's even funny. And there's so much in the game that makes you just want to keep playing. It's addicting. All I have to do right now is get a habitat for Bulbasaur. Now, all I have to do is get this little water through this little cavern here. Oh, wait, there's a building over there. Let's see what's still going on in this building. It's endless. And I see why people suck so much time into this. I see why my wife, I never talk to her anymore. That has nothing to do with the game. So those are 3 major AAA, highly rated games that are exclusive for the Nintendo Switch 2 right now. That's 3 good, compelling reasons. I would also throw in there the GameCube collection of games that are on Nintendo Switch Online. Those are only on the Switch 2. And also a GameCube if you have a GameCube. They just added Pokemon XD Gale of Darkness, the OG home console Pokemon RPG. There's also Wind Waker, Luigi's Mansion, Mario Strikers, Soul Calibur 2, and everything else. And there's more coming too. These are all bangers. These will give you hours of playtime, and they're just part of the Nintendo Switch Online Plus expansion pack subscription, but only for the Switch 2. So the Nintendo Switch Online GameCube games, those 3 exclusive AAA games, these are some reasons to maybe upgrade from your 9-year-old console. I'm starting off just talking about the games because if I was in the position to buy a new console, that would be the first thing that I think about, and there's a lot to say there. Something I often forget about are the third-party games that are on the Switch 2 that you cannot get on the Switch 1. I forget about that a lot because I have a computer. I could just play games on that. The absolute most killer third-party game that came out this year is Resident Evil 9. It seriously might be up there with one of my favorite games of all time. It's amazing. Sure, you can get this on other consoles, but the Switch 2 version is very impressive. It's up there with the quality of some of the PC handhelds that are double the price of the Switch 2. Along with this, other Resident Evil games like Resident Evil Village, Resident Evil 7, those are all cloud versions on the Switch 1. They are native on the Switch 2. And we should be getting 2, 3, and 4 remakes coming soon too. Other impressive ports are Final Fantasy VII Remake, Street Fighter VI, Star Wars Outlaws. These are all very impressive ports. They look and run very well on the Switch 2, and they all even have free demos. So if you own a Switch 2, you can try them out for free just to see how much better your new toy can run its games. And then, of course, there's Cyberpunk, but I'm sure everyone's sick of that being the gold standard of third-party Switch 2 power. I'm sure you already know about Cyberpunk. There's also a handful of Switch 1 games that have Switch 2 editions that are just way better. Pokemon Legends ZA is basically unplayable on the Switch 1. The Switch 2 makes it feel like a totally different game. I don't even have to label which one is which. Okay, fine, I'll label them. Even just moving the camera around a little bit, it's so much smoother on the Switch 2 versus the Switch 1, it's stuttering. And then it's so much worse just walking around. Look at all the stuttering I'm just walking around. This is like the easiest thing that the system can handle. It can only get worse from here. The Zelda updates are also nice. They look really good, but honestly, they were great before. Same thing with Mario Odyssey. Mario Odyssey has a pretty low resolution in portable mode, sometimes dipping all the way down to 540p. But on the Switch 2, it can be pretty much locked at 1080p the whole time. Almost every Switch 1 game runs just fine on the Switch 2, with like very few exceptions. There are like 15,000 Switch 1 games, so there's gonna be like one or two that are gonna have a problem. For games that do not have a major Switch 2 update, Nintendo just last week released a little toggle that will allow these Switch 1 games to run in portable mode on your Switch 2 as if they were docked to a TV. That gets you a pretty significant resolution boost in portable mode. For a lot of games, this means 1080p in portable mode, finally. This fixes a lot of stuff, like Monster Hunter Rise gets a pretty substantial resolution boost. This game runs at a static 540p in handheld mode on the Switch 1. That looks pretty rough. In docked mode, you get it boosted to a static 756p. Still not amazing, but that's a whole 30% boost in resolution just from flipping a switch. No game these days should be running at 540p. In 2026, what are we doing here? Some Switch 1 games, like pixel art games, they're built to be scaled on this 720p screen on the old Switch. So playing them on a 1080p, they look scaled all weird and it's bad. But now that you can toggle this little switch, you can play it as if it's in docked mode, and that scales things a lot more beautifully here. By and large, though, I gotta say, most of these games don't really see a huge difference when you toggle this switch to enhance your Switch 1 games on the Switch 2. Most games just get a modest resolution bump, and that's it. And this, of course, only affects the handheld performance. It does not affect the docked performance, which was already fine as it was. There does exist a list of Switch 1 games that give you either free updates on the Switch 2 or paid enhancements that you have to pay for. The paid ones usually greatly increase performance, like the Zelda update or something like Metroid. Metroid Prime 4 is actually a great example of a game that came out post-Switch 2 launch, but it's for both the Switch 1 and the Switch 2. I played this on the Switch 2, and it feels tailor-made for the Switch 2. It even has pretty great mouse controls, and that's not something you could do on the Switch 1. I decided to load this up on the Switch Lite just for this video because I couldn't imagine how this game would run on an almost decade-old hardware. It turns out, it runs like totally fine. I think the smaller screen helps hide the smaller resolution, but the frame rate feels totally fine too. It's extremely smooth. Smoother than I would have expected for how pretty this game is and how old this hardware is. Finally, I can talk about the hardware. A few things jumped out at me when I went backwards from the Switch 2 to my Switch 1s here, and the first thing being the Switch Lite is just an excellent piece of hardware. I completely forgot how cool this thing is. You'll also notice a lot of my stuff is modded. You cannot buy it like this. This is a metal shell. These things have been through a lot. It's like the perfect form factor, and it has a D-pad. If most of the games that you're playing are the low-powered indie stuff or Switch 1 games, this thing is still absolutely goated. I forgot just how much I love this thing, and it's extremely cheap these days. Just don't get this as a secondary Switch. Nintendo really doesn't want you to have a secondary Switch for some reason. Transferring your digital games between Switch consoles still sucks. It's arguably worse with the whole virtual game cards thing. If you still have an original old LCD Switch, this one is noticeably way worse than the Switch 2 screen, which is big and vibrant and clearer with its higher resolution. It's a night and day difference. If you have a Switch OLED, that screen is more vibrant and almost just as big. The upgrade pipeline between these two is a little less clear. I mean, the Switch OLED is a little newer than these other ones. If we're thinking of just hardware, maybe don't upgrade this one just yet, unless you have very specific games that you want to play that we talked about earlier that are just on the Switch 2. But all of these original Switches have a really tiny thumbsticks compared to the Switch 2, which is a really big problem if you've got big man hands. Also, all of the Switch ones have terrible Wi-Fi speeds. Downloading things off of my super duper Wi-Fi 7 network takes significantly longer on the Switch 1 versus the Switch 2, which is weird because the Switch 1 is Wi-Fi 5. That shouldn't be that slow. It's like they nerfed it on purpose or something. Getting a Switch 2 isn't all of a sudden gonna make your multiplayer games have a much better connection or anything. It's just gonna make your downloads faster. That's it. There's also the battery life, of course. If you're just playing Switch 1 games on your Switch 2, then the Switch 2's battery life is gonna be way better. The spec that you see online is somewhere around 2.5 to 3 hours of battery life on the Switch 2, but that's if you're playing something like Resident Evil 9, which isn't available on the Switch 1. If you're playing Switch 1 games only on your Switch 2, you're going to be getting like 5 hours of battery life, which is significantly better than all of the other Switches. So if we're comparing apples to apples, the Switch 2 just has better battery life. And also, these batteries get over time, so depending on how long you've had your Switch 1, the battery just might not be so hot anymore. Okay, maybe you're still on the fence about upgrading to a Switch 2. Then don't buy one. No one's making you. Everybody's different. Everyone's got different priorities. If the games don't appeal to you and the technical upgrades don't appeal to you, then it's not for you. You don't need one, and that's okay. Wait for some games then. The ones I'm excited for, The Adventures of Elliot, which I just learned is also coming out on other platforms, so maybe I'll just get it on PC. There's also Orbitals, which is a Switch 2 exclusive. It's like Split Fiction if it looked like an 80s anime. The Dusk Bloods is From Software's Switch 2 exclusive. Looks like Bloodborne, but it's co-op multiplayer, and I really liked Elden Ring Night Rain, so this sounds sick. Tomodachi Life is coming out soon, too. They literally just shadow dropped a demo I haven't had a chance to play yet. Fire Emblem, if you're a JRPG nerd. And the next Pokemon game, which will be a Switch 2 exclusive, too. But you've got a while for that one. But what I'm saying is, there's a lot in the pipeline that we know about, and there's probably a lot that we don't know about yet, too. I do think there's some perfectly valid reasons to want to keep around your Switch 1 for a bit longer. I also think that there's perfectly valid reasons to put it down and upgrade to the Switch 2. For me, I'm glad that I did. I'm glad that I upgraded. But I know that I'm not most people. I think most people, for the last couple of months, they were probably better off with $500 in their pocket. But now, recently, now there's some compelling reasons to upgrade. Unless you watch YouTube on the Switch 1, there's still no YouTube app on the Switch 2, so don't get a Switch 2 then. Look, I'm a PC handheld guy. I like my PC handhelds. I can play all of my Steam games wherever I want, and they're nice and portable, but those are big and bulky, and they're very expensive, and they're getting more and more expensive. This thing plays games almost just as good, sometimes exactly as good, and it's half of the price of all of those PC handhelds. And I think a game like Resident Evil 9 might run better on this than it does on a $550 Steam Deck. So, hey, I made a video on this Kojima laptop, and I think we're giving one away. So I'll link it in the description. This is a very nice, very expensive laptop, and they are graciously offering a little giveaway to some of you guys. So join it in the description below. Then you don't need a Switch 2. You can play Resident Evil 9 right here, and that's how I've been playing it. Also, if you're in the Boston area this weekend, I'll be at PAX, so come say hi to me at PAX. Thank you very much. What do you guys think about the Switch 1 versus the Switch 2? Why did you upgrade if you did, or why haven't you yet? Or maybe you didn't have a Switch at all, not even the old one, and you're watching this to see if it's worth it for you to even get this at all. Maybe you're jumping into the ecosystem for the first time. Leave it in the comments below, at me on Twitter, any and all of this other social media garbage. Hey, all the people scrolling at the bottom here are podcast patrons. We got bonus episodes over on the podcast channel. So if you're a supporter anywhere, you can watch some extra content from us. It's a great way to support us. Most important thing you can do to help support us, though, is just subscribe. My dad would appreciate that very much. And share this video with a friend who's still rocking their Switch Lite. Thank you very much. Have a good week. I gotta do the podcast now. It is in 10 minutes.